All right. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to This Week in Space. Good morning, Leslie. How you doing? Or good afternoon. Um, Hello out there in TV land, and welcome to your weekly astrological weather forecast with me, your dynamic host of the week, Joan Emerson Bell, or Blind Stallion Space Wizard, depending on where you are watching this at. I'm an advisor on the AstroStar Live astrology app, and I bring y'all the weekly astro weather forecast as I see it, filtered through the lens of this guy each and every week. We do this Mondays, 10 a.m. Pacific time, 1 p.m. Eastern time, and we like to go through the transits of the week and sort of talk about them through a mythological, archetypal, astrological lens. Going over what the weather might feel like, the things that might arise, giving people a heads up on the celestial spheres, the music of the spheres, if you will, and to see if it's playing your tune. And if not, that's all right. It We can also kind of navigate through the astral weather like we do with the terrestrial weather. If it's going to rain, you bring an umbrella, right? If it's going to be a tornado, maybe get to the cellar. If it's going to be, a nice sunny day, bring some sunscreen, right? We just roll with it, and that's how we do it. And so I think it's always helpful to have a little bit of the heads up to know what is in store and also how to kind of best work with the celestial energies. If it's a good day to get a bunch of work done, and not a great day to go partying, maybe, taking that into account, and vice versa. If it's not a good day to get some work done and it's a good day to hang out with your friends, maybe taking that into account. Good morning, Seven. Nice to see you. All right, so that's my little intro and my spiel. You can follow me at AstroStar Live. It's a great astrology themed app. It's a free download. You can get it wherever you get your apps at. I do this talk through there. I'm also available for readings through AstroStar Live. I post some other content on there, talks about specific transits. There's also a number of great astrologers, including Bear Hickman, who I collaborate with on a podcast occasionally, the Inspired Astrology podcast, Sam Reynolds, Cameron Allen, um, Richard Winooski, a bunch of great astrologers from the traditional Vedic, evolutionary, esoteric. People bring in some excellent wisdom on topics of astrology and what's going on in space. So if you're interested in joining a pretty vibrant astrological community and learning more about the art and science of astrology, check out AstroStar Live. All right. Welcome to the week, my friends. This is a pretty big one, and we are sort of leading up to the Uranus Mars conjunction, which will be occurring next Monday. I'm not really going to talk about it too much today. I might touch on it at the end. We've got kind of a full docket. However, a lot of like what we're feeling, experiencing, maybe leading up to this kind of revolutionary moment in the third decan of Taurus when Mars and Uranus conjunct. That again, that'll happen next Monday. I'll be talking about that next week, and I do an astrology themed radio show each and every week that comes out on Fridays or Saturdays, sometimes Sundays, depending on how the week's going for me. But I'll be talking about that in the radio show to give you a little heads up, a little preview, and a soundtrack for that pretty charged moment. But one thing that I will say about this Mars Uranus conjunction is that this is going to be reactivating the the Jupiter Uranus conjunction that we had a couple months ago, which was really characterized by student protests over the war in Gaza. And so I think that Mars, which is a planet of action and a trigger, when Mars comes around the zodiac and it hits specific points, it can trigger things that have been building under the surface. And so it'll be kind of interesting to see what actions or what manifests through this Mars-Uranus conjunction. So this week we were kind of like preparing our nervous systems for that. And there's also a bunch of stuff going on with Venus coming into a trine with Neptune, and then same day going into Leo, and then the next day opposing Pluto. We have some Mercury action. We've got some solar action. The sun coming into trine Saturn, which is good for isolation and getting stuff done. Not a great day for hanging out with your friends, but Venus trining Neptune might be. Or a good day for spiritual practice. But hey, let's just jump into it, shall we? Okay, so starting off today, Monday, July 8th, we have Mercury in Leo sextile Jupiter in Gemini. This is going down at 9 degrees and 50 arc minutes of these diurnal signs. So yeah, maybe I'll talk about that just very briefly. I'm taking Austin Coppock's Fundamentals of Astrology Year One because one can never be too fundamental. One can never have too strong a foundation in anything that we do, I think. And one of the ways that Austin in his class is talking about the sort of uh, what is termed in the traditional astrology as like masculine and feminine, or like we can call them yin and yang, right? Active and receptive. And so we have air and fire as being active. We have water and earth as being receptive. And these are traditionally seen as masculine and feminine. And now, as we are moving collectively to the realization that gender is more of a construct, right, or a spectrum, or a social construct, trying to find new ways of talking about these things. And one of the terms that Austin brought in from the traditional astrology is diurnal and nocturnal, right? So we can think about air and fire as being diurnal, and water and earth being nocturnal. And the reason that I bring this in is a sextile is a harmonious aspect that happens between two diurnal signs, right? Two active signs, or two receptive or two nocturnal signs. And so we are getting this sextile with Mercury, who is in Leo, sextiling Jupiter in Gemini, which is Leo is a fire sign and Gemini is an air sign. And so we have this relationship, a harmonious relationship between these two diurnal signs, these two active signs. And so Mercury is the ruler of Gemini, right? So they are the one that is sort of Jupiter is hanging out in Mercury's house in Gemini, right? And so Mercury has some say and some sway over what goes on with Jupiter. And now Jupiter is traditionally seen to be in detriment in Gemini because Jupiter likes coherence. Jupiter likes the big picture, right? Jupiter is like, this is how it is. Let's tie it up in a nice little bow, like bada bing, bada boom, like there you go, right? And Gemini is fragmentation. Gemini is contradiction. Gemini is the opposites, right? And if we are a planet that is all about coherence, it's really hard to have opposition to that, right? Or fragmentation or multiple points of view. So in Gemini, right, which is like, but I think this and I think that and I think this other thing, right? Jupiter is trying to like lasso it all together and like make sense of this, which becomes pretty challenging, right? And so Jupiter has to get super creative in Gemini to figure out how they're going to create coherence out of dissonance or out of multiple voices, right? And we can sort of see Jupiter's journey through Gemini playing out in the political sphere, right? We have what is emerging as a fragmentation of the Democratic Party in the U.S., right? Or people calling for Biden to step down, and Biden being like, out of my cold, dead hands, right? There's no way. And so we see this splitting, right? And Jupiter like wants this coherence, and there's also this fragmentation happening. We're also seeing this in like the French election, which it looks like the leftist parties won, which I'm very grateful for. But we see like a fragmentation in the French parliament, right, where no one had the election occurred last night, and last I checked, the leftists were winning or had won, but no one has a majority, right? So we have a parliament that doesn't have a leader, right? That has three parties: a centrist, a ultra right, and a far left. Right. So we have this kind of fragmentation or this contradiction existing in the kind of whole of the parliament. And Jupiter is like, but I want it to all come together and make sense. And, it's not going like that. Right. And so we need to figure out how we can like hold this contradiction and hold the multiplicity, right? And also have it fit into a bigger picture. And we don't like Jupiter just entered into Gemini, so it's not clear how that's going to happen yet, right? And so that's the big overview, Jupiterian overview, but we can also look at it in the more mercurial minutia, right? And so Mercury in Leo, right, wants to be the center of attention. Leo is connected with the heart, right, the center of the circulatory system, and Mercury is making connections, right, and pumping through the system and is at the center of attention, the center of the system, right, making deals, making moves, talking to people, putting things out there, right, and also taking them back in, right? Thinking about Mercury and Leo as this like real center, or wanting to be the center of the information circulatory system. They also want to be the center of attention, right? And they want to be heard. They want to be seen as being smart and intelligent, and they have something that needs to be said. And so we have this kind of connection between Jupiter, who is like the planet of overarching, kind of like wisdom and truth, and Mercury in Leo, who like wants to be on stage and like has something to say and wants to be heard for it. And so, we can think about Mercury in Leo sextile Jupiter in Gemini being like this opportunity to like speak our truth, right? And the ability to say something that is big and moving and meaningful and it might like create some fragmentation, it might create some opposition, but I think Mercury in Leo needs to have the courage to be able to speak up and speak out. Um, you know, Jupiter as the planet, right, wants, or as an archetype, wants this coherence, but we might need to experience some fragmentation before we can get to the coherence. There might need to be a breakdown of what was coherent in order for new things to emerge. And I think that Jupiter is often seen as the teacher and Mercury as the student, right? And the teacher is like, this is how we do things, right? And the student's like, but why, right? And again, a sextile is a helpful relationship, so we can get this a good flow going between teacher and student, and the teacher can learn from the student, right? There can be an exchange of information instead of Jupiter, right, being like, this is how things are, and you just have to learn in this way, and Mercury being like, this is not how I learn, like, can we do it this other way, right? And so being able to evolve and adapt. Right. Gemini also is a mutable sign. So Jupiter is learning some adaptation as Mercury is like, hey, I need to like stand up here and speak my truth and say like, this is not working for me, right? We got to do it in a different way. Or have you ever thought about this, right? Jupiter is like the big puzzle all put together. Mercury is like, but these little pieces, and so that if we get a good relationship between being able to look at the details and the minutia and also see how they fit into the bigger picture, I think it can be really helpful. And today is a really good day of doing that. On sort of a side note, I just saw Inside Out 2 yesterday, which is a Pixar movie, which is very much in line with the kind of internal family systems way of thinking about the world. And basically, it's the inside of this kid's head, and all of their emotions are personified as different characters. And one of the things that they were looking for in this film was a big idea, right? A big idea that they could cohere around, right? And I think that this is totally a Mercury and Jupiter relationship, is looking for a big idea, right? And having the courage to engage with a big idea, or to connect with a big idea, or to have a big idea, or to be like, this is my big idea, to like stand up on stage and blurt it out. And some people might be like, oh my God, that's too big, or you can't do that, right? But I think Mercury in Leo is really learning to be able to take up space with their ideas. And Jupiter is like, nah, go bigger, right? Like let's, what happens if we increase that tenfold? You know, Jupiter's like bigger, 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 bigger. And so to think about, you know, and I'm not saying that you need to like put this into action today, but to think about like what is a big idea, right? And what is the big picture, and how does the like little things that we are doing on a daily basis, and this could be like doing the dishes or walking the dog or, you know, stretching, how do these fit into the bigger picture? And to consider, where do I want this to go, and what is the big idea, right? And what is the big idea that we are developing or cultivating? And can we have courage, the courage and bravery to be able to like, you know, allow ourselves to hold a big idea or a bigger vision? And what are the like little pieces that we can do to begin moving things towards this like bigger picture or the bigger goal, right? And then last thing that I'll say is this is probably a good time for curiosity, because Mercury is mercurial and very curious, and Jupiter is a planet of knowledge and wisdom. So following the threads of curiosity, right? Follow the threads of information and see where they bring you, right? And like see how these threads of information may weave into the bigger picture, right? And to be in the kind of like little bits, and also to be able to zoom out and see, oh, that's how it's fitting together. Isn't that curious? Right. Okay. Moving right along. Um, Oh, good morning, Lily. Yeah, how's everybody doing out there? Oh, nice to see you, Gina Maria. Good morning. Yeah, how's everybody doing out there in TV land today? Everybody having an all right Monday? I know that Mondays are a grind, but hopefully this helps to make it a little bit more enjoyable, or at least informational, right? And it's nice because you don't have to be here. Unlike other things that occur on a Monday, you don't actually have to be here. This gets to be hopefully like you know, something that fits in nicely with your cup of coffee, or you know, a little break, a little reprieve. No, Gina Maria, a wizard is always on time. Just remember that, you know, and we can think about Kairos, who is a personification of time, who is right timing, right? Being at the right place at the right time, and to think about being in right relationship with Kairos, who is depicted, I always love this, sorry. He is depicted as only having a forelock, right? Has like a skater boy haircut, sorry. Right? Kairos only has this like forelock, and the idea is that you grab them by the front of the hair when they're running by, but they don't have anything in the back. So if they pass by you, you can't grab them. So to think about being at the right place at the right time, think about Kairos, and grabbing that skater boy lock. Um, ooh, that's a great question. Somebody asks, and I don't know how to pronounce your screen name, so I'm not going to do it. But somebody asks, how do we avoid being in our heads too much with heavy mercurial energy? And that is a really great question. You know, there's a number of different ways that we can think about this, but if we want to think about a Jupiterian way, because we are in a sextile with Jupiter today, we can think about like zooming out into the big picture, right? Being able to see ourselves from a future place is a good way of doing that, right? Like, oh my God, I have all these things to do. And then like we can imagine ourselves on the other side of all of that and being like, oh, I already know how to do this, right? Or we can zoom out of the minutia, or the little kind of internal dialogue of like, oh, what about this? What about that? What about this other thing? You know, and being able to take a bigger picture, and to look at ourselves not just as you know, the little pieces swirling around us, but in a larger zoomed out context, which can help put things into perspective. And I think that the heavy mercurial energy gets too bogged down in details, gets too bogged down in the internal dialogue. And Jupiter is like, oh, this is how it all comes together, right? If I zoom out, I can see how all of the pieces fit together. Oh, Sol, thank you. Yeah, so Sol was asking, yeah, how do we avoid being in our heads too much with the Mercury energy? And so, yeah, again, like being able to kind of zoom out and see, like, not only this is how everything that I'm thinking about fits together, but this is me in relation to a larger kind of a sphere of things, a larger sphere of life. And Jupiter is a planet of hope and faith, right? Jupiter says tomorrow is going to be better today, or everything's going to work out fine. And so if we can tune into that Jupiterian kind of optimism and be like, Mercury might be like, oh, but like, did I leave the stove on? And Jupiter's like, it's fine, right? Which maybe double check the stove, but Jupiter having the optimism and the faith that it's going to work out all right, being able to trust in that and cultivate that relationship with the Jupiter. And, you might want to look into your chart and see where Jupiter is, and see where Mercury is, but also seeing the ways that you can cultivate the kind of faith that it's going to be okay. And again, like we can do that by zooming out and being like, oh, when I look at it from this angle, like these little things don't matter so much, and I can see how all the pieces fit together. We can look at it from the future self perspective of it's already worked out and everything, like I've already gotten through this problem, and now let's work backwards and see how did that happen, right? And sometimes it can just, another way of doing this, what that I also like, is being able to like think about our internal dialogue as parts of ourselves, right? So one, we can unblend, which is a IFS or internal family systems idea, which is like if that Mercury kind of like internal monologue like sort of takes over, we're like, okay, that's Mercury doing their Mercury thing, that's Mercury doing their talking thing. What if we like get Mercury to step over here a little bit? Mercury is like, no, I don't want to, right? And we're like, okay, well, first off, we're going to change your voice into a okay, so Jupiter and Mercury both in Aquarius, all right. Um, and so yeah, figuring out, right, giving Jupiter some airtime, right? So being like, Mercury, like we're gonna have you just set over here, right? And you can also like change the voice of the internal monologue because it's your internal monologue, right? We can be like, okay, we're gonna make you sound like Jessica Rabbit. We're gonna make you sound French, right? We're gonna make you sound any way that we want, and we're gonna put you over here, right? And then Jupiter, we're gonna like call you in and see, like, get your opinion on it, right? So being able to like create that space in our internal system and being like, okay, that's a lot of talking that I'm hearing from over here. We don't want to like exile it, but we're gonna just have you step a little further away and like maybe turn down the volume on that, right? And maybe we'll want to turn up the volume on the thing that's like, hey, this is going to be fine, don't worry about it, right? And so we can also like talk to ourselves, right? And be like, you can be like, Soul, I hear you, you're concerned about this thing, but you know what, it's going to work out fine, right? And we got Jupiter over here who like tells us that everything's going to be all right, and Mercury is saying all these things, and we want to take those into account, but like, maybe step back a little bit and give somebody else a little bit of time to talk. And these are some ways that I've used to sort of navigate my internal dialogue. And also, I recommend seeing Inside Out too, because it has a lot of similar themes in it. And thank you for that question, Soul. Okay. And did that answer your question? Or was that, oh, you said it was helpful? Okay, great. Please feel free to chime in some more though if you need. Okay, so what day are we at? Wednesday, July the 10th. We have the Sun in Cancer trining Saturn retrograde in Pisces, and this is happening at 19 degrees and 19 minutes. So this is a water sign, water trine. Soul says my Mercury sounds like Gilbert Gottfried, that's pretty funny. And also I can imagine annoying, and I think Gilbert Gottfried is pretty mercurial in a funny way, maybe like Saturn Mercury. um Okay, so Wednesday, July the 10th, we're getting this water trine between the Sun and Saturn. And so a trine happens between planets in the same mode. So we have Mercury in Cancer, or sorry, the Sun in Cancer and Saturn in Pisces. And so water signs have a lot to do with emotions, right? Feelings. And so we are getting a harmonious relationship between the sun, which is our identity, in Cancer, which is a sign of nurturing and nourishing, right? Um, and uh, Saturn in Pisces, which is a sign of sort of like the transpersonal, right? The collective, like surrendering to something bigger than ourselves. And so we have this sort of Saturn, a planet of structure, right? And the sun, identity. And so we were thinking about how do we structure our identities, right? Or like what are the structures that support who we are in the emotional realm? Right. And Saturn is a planet of limitation and pressure that, in a supportive aspect like a trine, can really help us to step into our authentic selves. Right. And so we can think about what are the structures, right, that can help us care for ourselves and others, right? If we think about Cancer as nourishment, right, and Saturn as structure, what are the ways that we can structure nourishing? What are the ways that we can structure care? And Cancer is the archetype of the crab, right? And the crab has this outer shell which protects its like delicious, buttery, inner vulnerable goodness. And Saturn, we can think about as that outer shell that really creates the inner circle that allows us to be our authentic self, that allows us to shine brightly, that allows us to be vulnerable, that allows that inner core of self to really shine through. One of the things that we want to be aware of, though, is that as we are thinking about the Saturnian wall, the Saturnian shell, that it's making that the right size for us, right? The right distance so that we can spread out and shine our light. Also, but not too far away so our light dissipates, right? We also want to make sure that it's the right thickness so that there's a permeability to it. Things can come in and things can come out, right? Saturn, if left unchecked, can make that wall too thick and isolate us or cut us off from other people. If it is not right sized, it can be the story that it's not safe, or like others aren't safe, or I can't let other people in. And so I need to like really protect myself. And that story or core belief might, depending on one's life experience, might be totally valid. If we're just looking at it, thank you, Jeff. Yeah, I'm glad that I got to break this shirt out today. um, to think about, and this is in honor of Venus moving into Leo at the end of the week, where we get to let our free flag fly, right? We get to be our like most adorned selves. But coming back to this like Saturn moment, right? To think about, yeah, what that right sort of level of protection or Saturnian structure is to help us to really be our authentic self, right? Um, and so, yeah, with the Sun trine Saturn, it helps us to be in alignment with our responsibilities, right? Saturn is a planet of responsibility. It asks us to think about our long-term goals, and it helps us to have discipline and stay the course. And as this sort of like, we can think about Saturn as an old curmudgeon, right? Who's like, if you don't do this, that's not going to happen, right? If you want something, you got to show up for it. What are you like really dedicating your time and energy to, right? And that sort of pressure that Saturn puts upon us, right, can really help us to tune into what's really important, what feels really vital, right? And to think about the ways as this like Saturnian pressure is like coming down on us, right? It's being like, how do I really care for myself here? And how do I care for others? Right. Oh, and Soul says this makes me think about the housing crisis. And I think that is pretty spot on. And I think about that all the time because I think that's something that impacts millions and millions of people. And if we think about like Cancer as a sign of home, right? And Saturn as like downward pressure, right? And also Saturn rules people who are down on their luck. Saturn rules the poor and the unhoused, and so how do we have like a right relationship between caring for ourselves and caring for the most vulnerable among us, right? How do we create systems of care and mutual aid and mutual support that allows people to feel safe in their bodies, safe in their systems, right? And that we are able to care for everybody in the community, right? Where Cancer cares about like the family, right? But how do we kind of like extend, like if we have extra in the family system, how can we like share that with others, right? How can we expand our circle to care for more than just ourselves? And Saturn is like, no, we can't, right? Saturn has a lot of fear around like, oh my God, like I'm not going to be okay, right? If I share this, I'm not going to be okay. And the Sun in Cancer is like, yeah, we'll be fine, right? This is how we like are able to care for ourselves. And so I have some extra here, and so I can care for other people, right? I can feed somebody else because I have enough food to be able to do that. And so being able to really think about the ways that we care for ourselves and how that can translate into our care for other people. Um, yeah. Whoa. So I was saying, do you know that hermit crabs line up for highly desirable new shell homes? I did not know that, but I did hear that there is this moment where the hermit crab, when they're going to get a new shell, has to like run naked down the beach into their new shell home, and I think that that is like this sort of moment of like Cancerian terror where they have to be vulnerable and like seen and exposed, right? And so, again, like that's part of life. And so, how do we create the structures that we can feel safe enough to be ourselves, that we can feel safe enough to be exposed, that we can feel safe enough to be able to like hold ourselves and then also support other people, right? And so, coming back to, you know, yeah, and one of the ways also that I think of Saturn is again these like longer term goals, right? The big picture. Saturn can be conceived of as like the great work, right? The thing that we are dedicating our time and energy to making real. And Saturn is this like downward pressure that helps us to be like, this is really important to me. Saturn like teaches us what is important and what is vital, right? And so our perceived challenges and obstacles may actually be things that help to support us, right? If we reframe that, we can see how our stumbling blocks might be stepping stones, or how the perceived limitations that we experience can be scaffold that supports our long-term growth, right? And so this is a really good time for work that requires discipline and self-control. And so Saturn is also about patience, right? And taking our time. And so this is Wednesday, midweek, might be a good time to think about delayed gratification and how having two cookies later might be better than having one cookie today. And to think about the ways in which we can cultivate and utilize patience. Um, so saying Cancerian Terror is a great post-punk band name, and you can have that. Yeah, send me a tape, send me a cassette. Okay, so Thursday, July 11th, and now we're starting to really get up in it, because we have Venus at the anaretic degree of Cancer, the 29th degree of Cancer, coming into trine Pisces at 29. Trine Neptune in Pisces at 29 degrees and 55 arc minutes. And so just like bigger picture Jupiterian perspective, Venus in Cancer is trining Neptune in Pisces. Then that same day, later that day, they're moving into Leo, and then the following day they are coming into an opposition with Pluto in Aquarius. So Venus is making some moves there on the astrological stage, and there's going to be a shift. And so we had this last week with Mercury doing the same dance, and then this week with Venus, and then next week, end of next week, is the Sun is going to be doing a similar thing. And yeah, Gina Maria saying that damn 29th degree, which is like pretty spooky, and there's a lot of anticipation that a planet has at the 29th degree. It's about, it's like I'm about to go into this new thing, and is it going to get better? Is it going to get worse? Right? Am I gonna, like, how am I gonna feel? Oh God, like I don't want to leave. The next thing, I can't see it, right? It's sort of like being at the door to, the new job, right? And being like, oh God, am I gonna like this? Did I make a terrible decision? I have to go in, but I don't know if I want to. And so there can be a lot of anxiety at the 29th degree. And it's also kind of all of the lesson of the sign consolidated at that last degree. And it's like, are you going to like show up and like integrate this lesson? Or are you just going to like, totally fumble this one and run away? And, I think both happens, right? Because like integrating everything is a lifelong goal. We don't do that through like 30 degrees of a sign, but there are lessons that hopefully we take with us and we don't just ignore them, right? And so in evolutionary astrology, Neptune is seen as the higher vibration of Venus. And I don't really care for the kind of hierarchical language of being like higher is better and lower is worse, but I think what it talks about is Neptune being like universal love, or I love everything, or the universal principle of attraction, and Venus being a personalized version of that, being like, I love this thing, right? Or I really like this thing. And Neptune is like, but I love everything, And so this trine might be supportive in transcending like the personal sphere of love and attraction to the collective, right? And being like, my experience of love, desire, pleasure, how does that emanate outward, into the love of all sentient beings and the care of all things, you know? And I think that, and also how does the like universal principle of love, how can I find a kind of hold a drop of that in myself, right? And realize that my love for this person or this thing in my life, how does that also connect me to the larger interconnected web of love that and attraction that holds everything together? Oh yeah, and Jeff is saying, or Cosmic Cousins is saying that Neptune is also the esoteric ruler of Cancer, right? Which I know less about the esoteric astrology, but I think that's super interesting, right? So we have, because also Venus is exalted in Pisces, and so we have, there's sort of a like a weird mutual reception that is going on there. And this, again, I think that the kind of individual and collective relationship of love and being able to sort of tune into that, and I think that Neptune is the planet of sort of the dream, right? The idealized vision, the paradise. And so I think that this trine can help support this idealized vision of love, or a sort of yeah, the dream of love and connection and relationship, um, which I think can be awesome. And also Neptune is a planet of delusion and illusion. And so, we can see like love affairs that might seem too good to be true may actually be too good to be true. So just like, trying to keep one foot in reality as we were being swept away on this like romantic love boat voyage, right? And I think Neptune and Venus can make like red flags look like a circus, right? And you can be like, oh my God, all these red flags, like this is a magical circus, right? Let me run to it. And it's like, okay, no, that's actually not a magical circus. That's a bunch of red flags, and you might want to check yourself, or really like ask an older person or a Saturnian friend. I think Saturn is a really good kind of antidote to Neptunian dreaminess. Saturn is totally practical, right? Saturn is down to earth. Saturn is like, don't do that. And I think Saturn moving through Pisces, kind of sweeping up after Neptune, which is just like dissolving everything and turning everything into goo in Pisces. Saturn is following along behind with a mop, like sort of mopping it up and like bursting bubbles and being like, nah, that's nonsense. That's not true. That's not real. Get a grip, right? Um, Oh yeah, yeah, bull running towards red flags. Yeah, exactly. You know, Venus as the ruler of Taurus, nice one, right? And being like, oh my God, like that's the thing. And so, just and again, trine is a harmonious aspect, right? So there is support there, but trines are also very easy. So it's easy to just get swept away and do the thing that's easy. It's the, shortest distance between 2 points is a trine, right? And so we can just like go with the flow, which I think is great. But if we are going with the flow towards a pile of red flags, we might want to like ask somebody, hey, like, what do you think about this, right? So Neptune is also dissolving, and so they may break down some of the barriers that we developed last week, or not barriers on one hand, or boundaries on the other. And this is maybe your perspective, but Venus was in a trine with Saturn last week. And so we got to like really work on what are the good boundaries that I can hold in relationship? What are the good no's that I can have to make a better yes? What are the relational structures that really work for me, right? And so Venus is, has these boundaries and these relational structures and is like moving along through Cancer, like really caring for themselves. And then they hit this trine of Neptune, and Neptune's like, you don't need any of that. Like, just merge with me. And Venus is like, okay, right? And so we may sort of feel our boundaries like dissolving, or our boundaries being tested, or maybe like, needing to really renegotiate some boundary things, because again, Neptune's dissolving and wants this sort of interconnected oneness of all things, right? And so relationship is a great way to find that sort of intertwined, sort of enmeshed feeling that Neptune is longing for. But, we don't want to like totally abandon ourselves or look for somebody to save us or rescue us, or we don't want to be like, oh, I'll rescue you. Don't go into Captain Save-A-Ho this week, okay? Right? Because Venus moving through Cancer is also about like relationships that nourish us, and relationships that care for us, and relationship as a form of caretaking, right? And something that feeds us and feeds our souls. And we don't want to just totally abandon ourselves and be like, save me, right? Or totally abandon ourselves and be like, I'll save you, right? We need to find like a healthy balance between that, and how we can find that like divine ecstasy of merging with something bigger than ourselves, which is what Neptune is longing for, while maintaining our Venusian values of this is what I like, this is what I don't like, this is me, this is you, right? How do we have like connection while maintaining a healthy sense of self? And I think that is the challenge of the Venus trine Neptune. But, I think that we learn a lot about ourselves, and it is that interplay between the Saturnian structure and boundaries and the Neptunian abandonment, right? Or like dissolving or intermingling, right? And on the other side of this, we have some information of this is how this feels, right? This is what I am looking for. And like I learned some boundaries, and I learned to like fucking jump into the beyond, right? And so how do we hold both things? How do we integrate them together? Also, Neptune is imagination and creativity, and Venus is very much connected to the arts, right? And so this is a great time to make art or make music, right? And I think that art and music are great ways of sort of experiencing that Neptunian sense of ecstasy, right? That trance state, and being able to bridge spiritual practice and creativity, and thinking about creativity as a spiritual practice, right? And um, Yeah, I think let's see here. Yeah, and then the last thing that I'll say on this is Austin Coppock draws a correlation between Neptune and Dionysus. And Dionysus is the Greek god of intoxication, ecstasy, and trance states, right? Sort of transcending the self through trance and ecstatic experience. Whoa. Jeff is saying I used AI to write music this week for the first time. I'm curious how that came out. Will you send me the track? I want to hear it. um, being able to transcend the self through ecstatic experiences, this Dionysian or also Neptunian sort of experience, right? And so, with Venus trining Neptune, this can be the feeling of, oh, you'll write me a song? That would be excellent. I would love that. I would be so honored. Yeah, so with Venus trining Neptune, this can be like ecstatic experience through social connection, through the party, through love, through connection, right? Through art, right? So when Wednesday, I forgot what day. Thursday is a good day to court ecstatic experience, right? And if we're going to go into an ecstatic experience, making a safe container for that. And this can be meditation, this can be dance, this can be art, this can be sex, this can be relationship, this can be raving till dawn, however you want to experience that, but like experiencing relationship and interconnection through ecstatic experience, and the loss of individual identity through the ecstatic experience in connection with others is a Neptunian thing. And so thinking about the beautiful ways that we can connect with the everything, with the stuff. All right, Gina Maria clearing their schedule on Thursday, and yeah, we can go raving together. Okay, so also on Thursday, right after that trine from Venus to Neptune, we have Venus entering into Leo. And so Venus will be in Leo until August the 4th, at which point they will enter into Virgo. And so Venus in Leo also wants to be the center of attention, right? Again, Leo connected to the heart, right? So the heart of the party, the life of the party, right? The thing that like circulates through the system of the social system, right? Venus coming off of this like very dreamy, like trance, ecstatic dance, right? Trine to Neptune, Venus enters into Leo and is like, oh, look at me, right? Look at me, everybody, I'm here, right? And they want to be noticed for their creative and artistic abilities. They want to be seen as the sort of life of the party. They want to be seen as special and unique and beautiful in their own unique, special way, right? And so this is a little bit of a shift, right? And I think that this is really the shift from water to fire. Is in water, it's like our interconnected, like emotional sort of thing. And then in fire, it's like, wait, I am this special, unique being. I am a golden god. Like, right? Everybody look at me. And, yeah, this like movement from like oneness or interconnectedness to be like, I have needs, right? I am special. Look at me. Pay attention to me. Right. And so, yeah, Leo as the ruler of the heart and Venus, the planet of relationship and love, and being, I'm thinking about this as self-love, right? How we turn the love from the like collective or from the world into like, oh, these are this is how I love myself, right? And being able to validate ourselves without necessarily like external validation. And I think that on, one of the ways that we could look at Venus and Leo is being like, I need other people to appreciate me, right? Seeking internal validation from external sources. And I don't think that works very well, and so we might want to cut out the middleman, which is everybody else, and just focus on how do we love ourselves, right? What do we need to do to care for, appreciate, and love ourselves? right? And instead of being like, oh, other people love me, so I am lovable, so I can give love back, it's like, okay, I love myself, and so I can better shine my light. I can show up in a confident way and be able to share my gifts to the world, and then other people are able to receive that and care for this, right? And so yeah, and so sorry, I'm just checking my notes. Yeah, and I think Venus in Leo really wants to be a star, has that star power, wants to like be appreciated for their aesthetics and their uniqueness, right? And Venus also loves really unique things, and they want to be treasured, right? And as they enter Leo, we can consider um, how we are, unique and special, what relationships are unique and special, and how we are seen as unique and special in our relationships. Right. And so to really think about what we treasure and how we are treasured, also how we might ask for that, right? How we might, ask other people to treasure us, and how we also might treasure ourselves and allow ourselves to like stand in the spotlight and be like, yeah, I'm good enough. And I love myself. And these are the things that make me very unique and special and awesome and amazing. Right. And so we can think about Venus coming off this very like selfless and altruistic trine to Neptune, where everything is everything, right? And everything is full of love, and coming into Leo and being like, oh no, but me, right? Look at me, pay attention to me. And there can be a feeling of like that's selfish, or I'm self-obsessed, or other people are self-obsessed, because we're all going through this together, right? But we can maybe like reframe Venus and Leo not as like selfish or self-obsessed, but self-full. Right. And so like I like to think about self-full. I have nothing in Leo. I am Leo free. I'm very Sagittarian though. Um and so uh yeah, uh we can like reframe how we think about Venus and Leo, not as selfish, but as selfful, right? Which is being, how do we orient to our needs? How do we like care for ourselves? How do we give ourselves love and appreciation, right? How do we tune into what feels authentic and real and alive for me? And instead of abandoning that or pushing that aside or being like, oh, other people will think I'm weird, right? Or I'm selfish, being like, oh, I actually need to like center me, right? And again, we're thinking about like Leo as the heart, and the heart center, right? And so, how do we tune into that heart center and the wisdom of the heart, and to really allow that to guide us in our values and our likes and dislikes, and how we do relationship, how we care for ourselves and others, right? And so you can think about you know again, what is beautiful and unique about ourselves or you, right, without needing other people to validate that. And then what do you need to do for yourself this week so you can shine your light the brightest? And I think as Jeff, and Gina Maria has Venus and Leo at that anaretic degree at the very edge of Leo. Um, yeah, so a lot of like power and potency there. And so um, you know, Jeff was saying earlier, like, about my fashion sense. And I was saying, this is my Venus and Leo, right? In honor of Venus and Leo, I'm like, okay, cool. I'm going to like really show it off, right? Wear something kind of electric where I stand out. And I think that's really important, right? Because Venus and Leo wants to be seen. And one of the myths that relate to Leo is Hercules and the trials and the labors of Hercules. And the one specifically that relates to Leo is the Nemean lion. And Hercules, long story short, Hercules on his first trial had to go kill this lion, and he skins it and brings the skin back to show that he completed this task. And his uncle, his evil uncle, is afraid of him, right? Because he did this thing that was supposed to kill him and hides in a basket, right? And it like won't come out. And Hercules is like, "Do you want this like skin that I got for you?" And he's like, "No, no, it's cool, whatever, just get out of here." And Hercules is like, "Okay, cool," and puts it on, right? And so we can think about Hercules in the skin of the Nemean lion as that Venusian, right? Leo and Venus suit, right? The like, oh, I'm wearing this like, symbol of my power and my radiance, in the kind of clothes make the man type of way, right? Clothes make the person. But there's like the flip side of that, that Hercules never takes this lion skin off, and they become sort of role locked in the heroic, right? And we can think about Venus and Leo also like this as we step up on the stage in our like beautiful finery, and everybody's like, "Oh my God, that's so cool," right? And then it's like, "Oh, if I take this off, then I'm nobody, I'm nothing," and if we think about like stars, right, who can't go out in public because the stardom that they have around them, prevents them from being able to go to the deli and like get a bag of chips, right? Or do things that normal people do. And so I think we also need to watch out with the Venus and Leo as we like wear our kind of like magical cloak of stardom, right? Our power appearance, right? We don't want to get locked in that. We want to be able to take it off and just be a normal person and like go back home and take off our makeup and be able to like be in the world among other people. And I think this brings up our last transit of the week that I will try and get through in under 4 minutes if I can, right? Which is as soon as Venus enters into Leo, they'll oppose Pluto, who's retrograde in Aquarius. This is occurring at 1 degree and 7 arc minutes, right? And so, Pluto in Aquarius is the collective, right? And Aquarius is the collective, and Pluto in Aquarius is the power of the collective, and Leo is the individual, and Venus in Leo is like, I am the individual. Look how beautiful I am. Look at the beauty of this individual, right? All bowed before me, right? In my, lion gear, right? In my lion clothing. Like, look how beautiful I am. And it is this opposition between this is me, right? This is me in all of my glory, and the collective, right? Pluto and the collective is like, whatever, you're all gonna die. Right? Like your beauty now is going to fade, and we will all turn into dust, and how do we hold both of these things? And how do we hold what our kind of like desire and needs are to be beautiful and unique, right, with the will of the collective and what is needed in the collective? And I think about in a quantum physics type of way, I think about, or we can think about Venus in Leo as a particle, a unique and beautiful particle, right? And Pluto in Aquarius as a wave, right? And it sort of depends on how we look at it. If we look and we see a particle, it's a particle. If we look and see a wave, it's a wave, right? And the wave is made up of beautiful and unique individual particles. And so, how do we hold both of these? How can we be the beautiful and unique particle and also be part of a collective wave, right? And how can our beautiful, unique particle nature not repress, suppress, or deny another person's beautiful, unique particle nature? And how can all of our beautiful, unique particles come together into the collective wave of Pluto in Aquarius, right? Um, and so we have this like tension between the individual and the collective that is really going to kind of kick off over the weekend. And right, again, coming off of this like altruistic trine to Neptune, and then Venus coming into Leo and being like, wait, but I am an individual and I have needs, and then coming face to face with Pluto, who is like, that doesn't matter, right? Or like, can also be shaming, and also can be like, bring up feelings of like, I'm not getting my needs met. I gave so much in this relationship, or like I gave so much to these other people when I was when Venus was moving through Cancer, and I was taking care of everybody and feeding everybody and clothing everybody, and then like just like felt so great about it, and now like I feel depleted and empty, and like what am I getting out of all of this, right? And so that can be a feeling that we're moving into this weekend with. And then Pluto can also be a signature of obsession. And Venus and Leo can be obsessed with things, right? Obsessed with stardom, obsessed with, status, right? Or maintaining their position of power and status. And one of the ways that I was thinking about this is like Lady Macbeth, right? Who is, manipulating things behind the scenes to be able to hold power, right? And also the kind of like plutonic seeing ghosts and things who are helping Lady Macbeth to, maintain that power position. Um, Also, power might be an aphrodisiac when we have a Venus-Pluto relationship, right? Or we might find ourselves attracted to things that are powerful or taboo or underworldly. And Pluto has a lot to do with like underworld initiation, and we can think of myths like Persephone or Orpheus and Eurydice, right, where love provides the power to go into this underworld initiation, to dig deep into the chasms of the self or in the unconscious as a way of activating. Um, Somebody says, "I'm looking forward to it." Excellent. That's what I like to hear. I like the plutonic people who are like, cool, underworld initiation, like compelled by the power of love to go like into the underworld. I'm down. Can't wait. Sign me up. I appreciate you. Um, you know, and then uh like Pluto also deals with the like id, right? Animal drives. Yeah, Jeff is saying Pluto in Leo generation, the baby boomers, right? Um, any thoughts on the uh I mean, like uh I think that the like baby boomers and the Pluto opposition is like we're seeing this play out in the with Biden in the Democratic Party is the like I need to hold power, right? I like a refusal to let power go and refusal to allow transformation, and there's like uh the like need to stand in the sun, right, is the like Pluto and Leo generation. I feel like, and so being able, like, I think what needs to happen is the like, okay, we're not gonna like take up all the space in the sun, and we're gonna let other people come in. And I think that there's a real refusal to do that, and a real fear of change, right, and a real fear of possibility of change, which I think is also impacting all of the subsequent generations, the Pluto in Virgo, Scorpio, Libra, right? Everybody who comes after, right? Because they like, they're sort of posted up in the sun, and like everybody else is just in the margins being like, okay, I guess like I'll stand in the shade, like even though it's cold and scary here. And so that's one of the things that I think about the Pluto opposition, right? Is a kind of reckoning with like needing to let go of power and needing to get out of the spotlight a little bit. Um, and we're at time, but the last thing that I want to just bring in is that Pluto rules the kind of survival, animalistic drives, the id nature, and so these sort of forces, right? These unconscious forces become activated when Pluto is activated, and one of the parts of the Leo archetype is being able to sort of subdue the animal desires and drives, right? And that is part of the story of Hercules and the Nemean lion, right? If we look at it through an archetypal lens, is being able to subdue this wild beast that like kills people indiscriminately in the forest. And Hercules, the solar hero, comes and yes, I do, and I will text you my Venmo, or you can just Venmo me at Jonah-Emerson-Bell. But I will DM you my Venmo. Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate that. So yeah, Leo is about sort of not overcoming, but I think working with these animal desires and drives, and being able to sort of not be overwhelmed by them, but to work with them, right? And to integrate them, and to hold the power of our animal desires and drives, and not suppress them, but to channel them into creative ways and creative factors. And one of the things that one of a great way of looking at this is the strength card in the tarot, which is this person sort of holding this lion's mouth either shut or opening it up and coming into kind of right relationship with this like inner wild beast. And I think that as we have this opposition of Venus and Pluto in Leo and Aquarius, is being able to hold these, hold this animal nature, right? And being able to befriend it and our animal drives and not be overwhelmed or afraid of them, and not being able to, not being devoured by it, but being able to befriend and come into right relationship with it. And somebody asked for my Venmo in the comments, so I will put that in right now. And that, I think that's it. So I wish you all, I can't walk and chew gum at the same time. So I think I'm going to say goodbye. That is your astro weather for the week, my friends. And I'm putting my Venmo in the chat right now. If I can remember how to spell my name and keep talking. It's like a juggling act. And so, yeah, thanks everybody for tuning in. Lamb. Yeah, so I put my Venmo address in the chat on Instagram. If you're on Astrostar Live, you can book a reading with me. And I would be happy to look at your chart and see how all these things are impacting you. If you're on Instagram, you can also check me out on Astrostar Live. Oh, thank you, Seven. Oh, yeah, Gina Maria got to see my juggling act. Maybe I'll put that. I have a good video of that, so I'll put that in my stories, as well as my astrology themed radio show for the week, where I go over some of these transits from a much more musical standpoint. I do this radio show each and every week, which is much like this, but instead of me talking the entire time, I talk for about a quarter of the time, and then I play music ranging from punk rock to pop to country to hip hop and reggae and so much more that I feel like personifies the transits of the week. And you can check that out on SoundCloud at Camp Wizard Camp. You can also yeah, I put a link to it in my bio on Instagram. I also will post it again in my stories on Instagram, and I'll put a link to it on the YouTube. Yeah, thanks everybody for tuning in, and yeah, check me out on Astrostar Live. I will also put a link to that to download the app and to follow me. And there's a lot of great stuff going on that app. Great talks, great astrologers who are real people, not robots, not AI, not algorithms, but actual professional astrologers, and many of them very accomplished. So yeah, if you're interested in learning more about astrology, check us out. And if you're interested in learning more about the astro weather of the week, you can catch me next week, same wizard time, same wizard channel, 10 a.m. Pacific time, 1 p.m. Eastern time, and I'll bring you the all the astro weather you need to get you through the week. And yeah, that's it. That's all the astro weather that is fit to print, my friends. Thank you so much for tuning in, for your questions, and for just being you. I wish you all a safe and blissful week in space this week. And until next time, yeah, just be you, and may the force be with you. See y'all. Bye now. Thanks, Astrostar. Thanks, YouTube. See y'all.